Good morning. If you want to see how we restored this 50-year-old wooden stool, stay tuned because that's what we're going to do today. Good morning and welcome to another Memphis Monday 334, year 7, week 22. Today, you know how I like restoration projects. I got a lot of other projects in the pipeline, but this one went to the front because I like restoration the most. And this is a small wooden stool. A lady's father made this little stool for 45 years ago, and and then 45 years later you realize how valuable it was, a sentimental value, and in the meantime it's had 100 other uses and you didn't realize how important it was. But now we want to fix it up. They want me to fix it up for them, and so that it can be kept as a sentimental piece. So anyway, let's knock off the chit chat and get to work. Here's the stool that we're fixing up, and one of the main modifications we're going to do to it is I don't like the proportions. The legs here are the same width, 11 inches, the same width as the top. Well, there should be some overhang on this top. I've got to fix these legs anyway, so I'll shorten them, take a section out of here, and bring the legs together. Let's look at some other features. Here's a little sketch of the proportion problem. The top drawing here is kind of what the thing looks like now. The legs here come all the way out to the edge, and they come almost all the way out to the edge in the length direction. And this is what I propose to do, is to bring these legs in by a couple of inches so that it hangs over on the front, and also bring it in a couple of inches, bring them in this lengthwise so that the edge of the top doesn't come right to the edge of the legs. In terms of construction, the stool was put together with drywall screws, and the leg right there, that wood is cracked. Well, actually it's broken in two. You can fix that. On the other side, this side's cracked too. So taking a section out of these legs, I'm going to have to glue them back together anyway, so it really doesn't matter. In terms of the middle brace here, kind of went overboard. Continued the drywall screw theme, but this brace looks like it's about a 2x4. It's a little bit heavy. I also don't like this detail on the outside, but of course I got to keep it because it's the original. But it's basically a double round over on this side, and I'm in a cove on this side and in a cove on this side. And the whole thing is covered in paint. You know what happens on these things when things first built. Not all that valuable. It's only 3 months old. So they used it as a utility stool for a long time. It wasn't until after the father had been dead for 20 years and realized that this thing was built in 1967 or something. So we'll get this paint off here and restore some kind of a finish. So I think we have a plan. I'll go ahead and take this thing apart and see if we can get this plan going. I don't know what kind of joinery we're going to use on this thing. I guess I better get it apart first and see what kind of material I got going for me. These are fine thread, drywall screws. They're not real rusty. So I guess you can see the crack going right through here. That's pretty much separated. So I think I can probably take about an inch right out of the center there. Kind of centered on that crack. And that'll take the knot out. Take one of the nail holes out. Then we can just glue it back together. And here's the leg on the other side. It's going to be a two-stage repair. First this board is cracked, you can see. What they did is when they put those screws in there, and when they did, it cracked the board. So what I'm going to do is first glue this together, and then once that's set, then we'll take that section out of here. Now how I fix these kind of brakes, I use this grain to my advantage. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to split it apart, put glue in it, and then glue it back down. See, it's not even broken through on this side here. So I think I can take advantage of that. It'll be stronger than the original wood, no doubt. That's way too much glue. Well, that really is way too much glue. There's my glue up. These vertical clamps are keeping the thing aligned, and horizontal clamps are keeping pressure on the joint. Okay, let's move on to something else. Now what I'm doing here, I'm going to sand these, but before I do, I'm going to try to drive some wood filler down in the holes. And I'll actually use an ice pick to try to get it into the hole itself. Pack it all the way through the wood. So now what I want to do is take a section out of this piece. I'll cut this knot out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it 4.5 to here and 5.5 to here, and I'll do that on both of them so that they'll remain symmetrical. And then I'll glue them back together. cut these things apart. Basically took out that little piece of wood. So now this is going to be narrower. Now this is probably, well, no, it's not probably, it is. This is an unnecessary step, but I'm going to put the biscuit in these joints, primarily for alignment. Now this dry pine, it will glue up real good. I got the glue ups finished. I got those little cleats there to keep the boards, the layup flat. I'll take those off before the glue completely hardens, so they don't stick. Well, usually for restorations, we don't like to do a lot of sanding or anything, but in this case, this thing is just too ugly. And these braces were kind of poorly done. So I'm going to run this thing through my drum sander and see if we can take some of this ugly off. Here you can see why I made such a big deal about the putting the wood filler in those screw holes, because I knew when I sanded this, I was going to have this. This don't look too good, but when I put some stain on it, I'm going to put dark stain on it, and I think a lot of this will be covered up. I'm going to reuse these braces. They're not going to be in the center. They're going to be to the outside, but they're too wide. Throws the thing out of proportion. So I'm just going to narrow them down on the table saw, and not only will it narrow them, but it also take this dark edge here off. So I'll go ahead and do that. Nothing's going to be glued to this top, and we're still waiting for the legs over there to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and put some stain on this thing. This color is called Special Walnut. Here's the theory of operation for the changes we made. If you recall, these braces here were in the center, and they were much wider, like that. We're going to move them to the outside, and we're going to put them in notches in the corners of the legs, so they'll go all the way to the outside. I cut the first two notches and using the rail there as a template. What I'm doing here is just cutting or marking so that they're both be the same. That way, even if they're wonky, they'd be wonky together. I'm cutting these out on Old Thumpy. Let's go over and watch Old Thumpy operate. If you don't know who Old Thumpy is, it's this old bandsaw. About 3 years ago, I screwed the blade up, got tangled up in there, and bent it. But just for the heck of it, I put the blade back on, and so it's got a big bend in it, and for some reason it cuts better. Let's try it. Now I can see how this thing's gonna work. These legs will stand up like this. I don't know which side's which. And then these braces will go under here. There's another view of it. Yeah, I think this is a little more conventional approach. We are going to use some modern stuff. We're going to use pocket screws to hold the top on, but that's the only variation. Okay, what we'll do now is sand down these legs and make them consistent with the top and the side rails there. Well, you know, I said I didn't think we needed the center brace. Well, now I think we do. But you know, that's what happens when you criticize other people's work. You know, you don't know why they did what they did, and it ends up coming back to bite you. So this is going to be our center brace. I'm just going to weight reduce it a little bit, put a little sine wave curve in it. Now here you can see that I cut just right before the line. Now I'll clean it all up on my drum sander. About as many screws as the original I had, but they're going to be pocket screws. We won't be able to see them. I'm not going to use any glue on this particular joint right here, but I am going to use glue on these corners here. So I want to put the frame together first. before I stain it. Now I'm going ridiculous on these pocket screws on this thing. I got 8, 4 on each end. I don't really know how I could justify it, but except it was easy. Well, there's a frame put together. Got those dowels in there. Waiting for the glue to dry on those. I'll go ahead and chop those off. Let that glue dry a little and put some stain on this thing, and we can do some assembly. Well, I got that stain on there. We can do some assembly. Now the one of the benefits of this design is that it's 2 independent pieces. This thing is, the frame here is strong on its own. See, it's fine and dandy. It only gets stronger when you attach it to this board. But it goes in already being strong, so I think it's going to be an upgrade. I don't think the folks that are getting this thing, you know, they don't remember how it was built. Why would they? You know, they won't even. For all they know, this is how it was originally built. So, you know, the average bear just doesn't turn these things over and inspect them. Okay, we're going to call that lined up. Well, let's flip it over and take a look at it. Well, yeah, I like the proportions a lot. Definitely stronger now. I don't like these little dots all over it where we put that. But that'll remind everybody of the original construction. Yeah, I think we got a pretty nifty little deal right now. Well, that does it for Memphis Monday 334. Today we restored this little wooden stool, keepsake item. It was had some construction flaws and some design flaws we fixed. It had to be really completely stripped off because it had been used as a painting utensil. But I think it's now a lot better than it was and good for another 50 years. Well, that does it for Memphis Monday 334. We restored what was a kind of an ugly duckling little stool. The top came right out to the edge of the legs, and the proportions weren't right, and we went through some problems process is here to redesign the superstructure underneath. I think it's going to make it much stronger. I don't think they'll notice. They don't remember how it was built. They'll think it was the original builder built it this way. All right, that's all I have. Like, favorite, share, all the stuff you do on the internet. Most important, make sure you'll be back here next week for another exciting Memphis Monday. Thanks for playing along.